Day 2. Day 2, we're going to make a sea salt soap. And it's supposed to be incredibly nice, soften your skin, and act as a really good scrubbing soap. And I've never done this before, but from what I've read online and different instructions that I've picked up here and there, it's a matter of adding the salt to the very end at trace. So I'm going to make my soap like I usually would, and I'll show you as I go through that, and then I'll show you when I put the sea salt in. I also really like this canister. I like the whale. I like his face. It's a good whale face. Alright, so to give you a sneak preview, this is the jojoba oil. I'm going to use that to superfat again today. And there is the sea salt. Actually, when I started pouring it, the measurement that I calculated out started to seem like an impossible amount for the soap, so I cut it in half. By impossible, I started to go, wow, that's a lot of salt. And I'm going to put it in my, I don't know if I can say the name of the company. These bricks, these building bricks that we all know and love. I'm going to put it in there because this isn't quite a big enough batch to fill one of my orange loaf molds. But I also want to make sure I can get it out, and I don't think I'll be able to get the salt soap out of the tube because of the texture. And this over here is something else that I'm adding to it. It's a coconut oil soap that I made a little while ago, and it didn't hold together too well, so I let it dry out, and then I used one of the graters, those metal kitchen graters, to grate it up into little pieces, and I'm going to let some of those pieces float around in the soap because it does smell really nice and it bubbles really nicely. It's a musk smell, and I think it'll go okay with the smell that I've chosen for this. I'm going to use, I got these testers from Brambleberry. This one is Kentish Rain. I thought it appropriate with the sea salt. No? Yes. Okay. Just poured the lion. I just poured the lion. I just poured the lion, and you can see, guess what's called lye lint. It's the lye and the water are still not mixing with the oil quite, and so you have to stir it together until the whole thing becomes cloudy and murky. So you can still kind of see the reflection on the edges. The center is getting mixed really well, but we have to make sure that the edges and everything else gets mixed really well too. I don't know if you can see the texture on the top, but since we put the lye in, the texture on the surface has changed a little bit too. It looks a tad, I guess quilted is a good word for it. Doesn't look slick or smooth or oily, more like satiny in the look of it. The more I mix it, the more opaque it'll get. I'm going to hit this with the stick blender really quickly just to make sure that it all gets mixed together really nicely. Well, that certainly did it. I only hit this once. I think it's the small batches. I think they go a little faster than one would expect it to. So this is already a trace. A few pounces with the stick blender, and also the color change. I'm going to stir it a bit more too, though, because the stick blender with these small batches, I think I've said it before in earlier videos, but tends to incorporate an awful lot of air in there, and I want to make sure that it's actually tracing and not just whipped into this. Alright, I'm sure of it now. It's that trace. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to add the super fat, and then I'm going to add the essential oil, and then after I've made sure all of that is mixed together, oh, and my aloe vera. Once all that is mixed together and blended together, that I put the salt in and some of the soap shavings that I showed you. That's where I think it's going to get interesting. That and when I actually unmold them and we check out how they held up. So this one isn't so much a technique as a, is it going to work? Are my proportions? Is my math right? So here we go. First we're going to add the jojoba. Jojoba. Just like yesterday, only in a prettier cup. And then I'm going to add my essential oil that I didn't take the lid off of. Yay, fragrance oil. Kentish rain. A bit more. Snoop. Wow, that does smell good. It smells like moss and kind of an ozone-y smell. Very fresh smelling though. There's another underlying smell that is sort of familiar to me, but I'm not exactly sure where I've smelled it before. It'll come. I will remember it. Might be by the end of the series, but I'll remember where I've smelled that smell before. But most of it is just this, yeah, it smells like moss and maybe like the ocean. No, a little less like an ocean and more like a lake. Does that make any sense to anybody? More fresh water, less salt water. That's alright. Alright, I'm going to hit this with the blender one more time, and then I'm going to add the salt, the sea salt, and my soap shavings.